as you adhere to the faith, show no partiality toward no one. I agree 100%. You know, this is some good practical advice, a practical instruction to live by. Regardless of who it is, we're invited, we're instructed in our scriptures today to treat everyone with the same love, charm, and hospitality, regardless of who it is. And as much as I agree with this invitation and instruction, as much as I try to live by these words of wisdom, in some ways, to me, these words can seem like an ideal and not always a lived reality. I must admit that I'm not always a good example of following this instruction. Sometimes it's hard not to be partial. It's easy to be partial to a person that's finely dressed over someone who is poorly dressed. It is easy to be partial towards someone who is clean over a person that smells like body odor or some other unpleasant smell. It's easy to be partial to a person that has a warm smile on their face over a person that is angry. It is easy to be partial toward what is attractive over what is less attractive. But I am reminded that Christ's presence is in each person, both in the person that is well-dressed and the person that is not so well-dressed, and the person that smells nice and not so nice, both in the person that appears to be happy and to be angry. Christ is present in the attractive and the less attractive. Regardless of how we appear on the outside, Christ is present in each one of us. And how we treat each other is how we treat Christ. We hear in the scriptures Jesus say, "As you do unto others, so you do unto me." And sometimes what we see on the person on the outside is different from the person which is going on the inside of the person. Sometimes the person that looks, smells, or seems to be rough can turn out to be one of the nicest person that you ever meet. this person just might be having a bad day. And her kindness toward this person just might change that person's day. And even with the person that appears to look like they're well on the outside, they do not necessarily always have it all together. Below the surface, they also have challenges as well. It's in the warmth, in the love, in the hospitality, and in our impartiality that we open the doors of hearts, that we open the door of trust in each other. We change lives. And we break down barriers that get in the way because of appearance. Our scriptures today instruct us to show no partiality towards anyone. Our faith as well teaches us to show no partiality. And in my life as a missionary of the precious blood, I'm called to be impartial. I'm called to show partiality to everyone. Father Bob Schreider, a theologian in our community, particularly on the subject of reconciliation, would point out that it's in impartiality and in hospitality that it begins to open the door for reconciliation. In my years as seminary and in my first couple years as a priest, I have many great examples of priests and brothers in our community that do this well. Father Ken and Father Angelo are excellent examples of hospitality and impartiality. And you see their example day in and day out. And I try to follow in their example. Another member in our community that is, or I guess would be was now because he's deceased, of an example of hospitality and impartiality was Brother Hugh Henderson. Now, something to know about Brother Hugh is that he was an African American. And he entered into our community in 1972. A time in our community where priests and brothers were just becoming equals. A time in our nation, in our church, and in even our community's history when people were unfavorable toward people that were African American. But I believe Brother Hugh used this excuse of unfair treatment to show impartiality, love, and hospitality to those he met. I met Brother Hugh in 2006 before I was in seminary at a brother's symposium. I was not invited to the symposium, but I was out on a walk and was invited into a social. And I was not dressed to be there. I was a little uncomfortable. I felt like in some ways I was not supposed to be there. But Brother Hugh came up to me, and he got so close up to me that you could smell the Pepsi on his breath. But he was happy and joyful. And what he talked with me about, I do not remember. But what I remember is he told me that I needed to come to visit him at St. Mark's in Cincinnati. He gave me his business card. And 15 years later, I looked in my wallet this week, and that business card is still there. Fast forward 6-7 years later, I'm in seminary. And as part of my seminary, I was sent to live with Brother Hugh in Cincinnati for 9 months. And any time a guest would come to spend the night, one time it was my family and other times it was other guests, Brother Hugh would get up in the morning, sometimes still in his nightgown and bathrobe, and he'd make our guests a hot breakfast. Sometimes he'd make breakfast and then just go back to bed before the guests could eat. And he called it CPPS hospitality. Now, I'll be honest, if you come to spend the night in our rectory, I cannot guarantee you'll have a hot breakfast in the morning. But I'd hope that you would experience a similar experience of this hospitality. The lesson that I learned from Brother Hugh is that even if people do not treat you in the way that you should not be treated, he had the gift of doing whatever he could to help people feel welcomed. It did not matter who you were. To him, it really did not matter whether you really belonged or not. He made you feel like you belong. He had the gift to see Christ's presence in the people that he met. In our scriptures today, we hear the invitation to show no partiality toward anyone. We're called to see Christ's presence in the people that we encounter. In our scriptures today, we hear of Jesus opening the ears and the tongue of the man. This man, once his ears were opened and his tongue cleared, he heard and spoke plainly. May the Lord open our eyes. May the Lord open our eyes today so that we can see the Lord's presence in the people that we encounter and help them to feel welcome and to encounter the love of Christ in us.